Welcome into my wonder about the Odyssey, Christopher Nolan's take on Homer's epic poem. I think epic is the right word to start with. I think this is a modern epic. I don't know that there's been a film that is on this scale or has this much grandiosity on screen in my lifetime. It's the first film that's ever been shot fully in IMAX for commercial. It is the way that the film came about is really through sheer will of Christopher Nolan and his amazing roaming circus of cinema creators, all the people who are part of his departments, the heads of departments, the cinematographer, the score, everybody is at the top of their game. These are some of the best that have ever done these roles, and I think he has built up a huge, like, unbelievably large blank check with almost any production company that he works with or any distributor, because he has made billions of dollars for these entities. And I think on top of it, he's made movies that are high quality and are huge calling cards for the actors they're a part of. So he's also built up this huge cache of goodwill amongst every actor, so much so that there are people who have less than 5 minutes of screen time in this movie that are played by actors that have headlined films. All of that being said, it almost feels silly to say Nolan is a great director. It's almost like saying water is wet. This movie was pretty unbelievable. Let's get into my normal patter of this is how our friends over at IMDb frame this movie, which I think is really funny. Such a short and succinct synopsis. After the Trojan War, Odysseus faces a dangerous passage back, meeting creatures like Cyclops, Polyphemus, Sirens, Calypso along the way. So summarizing a huge poem into one sentence. The writers on this are Christopher Nolan and Homer, which ironically Christopher Nolan comes first because it's alphabetical. And the director is Christopher Nolan. So my take on this over at Letterboxd is 4.5 stars with a heart. This is one of the most well-paced and intense films I have seen, period. Matt Damon carries a cast full of stars to a perfect or near perfect vision of Nolan's take on the Odyssey. Robert Pattinson, Anne Hathaway, John Leguizamo, and John Barenthal are all unbelievable in this movie. Huge fan of how Elliot Page is used. Same with Himesh Patel, Samantha Morton, and Charlize Theron. Excited to see it again and process more. I still have not seen it again, but I did see it initially in 70 millimeter here at the Harkins Arizona Mills. And I am very thankful that I got to see it. I saw it at a 7:45 a.m. screening with my wife when the tickets came available a couple weeks ago. I saw that they had opened a new screening, and I asked my wife if she was in, and she was like, yeah, let's go. So it was a really fun experience. Got to get up, go see a movie, and then we went and had brunch and talked about it, which is sort of like a perfect Sunday for me. I really liked it. I had an amazing time. Let's talk a little bit about some of the people I had already called out. So Matt Damon as Odysseus, he is fantastic. The way that he is sort of the glue that holds movies together often, and is often maybe overlooked for how good he is as an actor. This movie gives him the opportunity to be not just the lead of a movie, but to sort of lead maybe the biggest film that's been made in the last 20 or 30 years. And it's a lot of respect, I think, put on him as an actor for what he has done. That all doesn't matter if he doesn't perform. And I think he did. I think he is really good as a man who is full of regret, who is full of defiance, and is trying desperately to do the one thing that he thinks is right, which is get home to his wife and then reckon with the outcome of his home and then deal with the ramifications of everything he has done. This movie really, over the amount of time I've thought about it and listened to podcasts about it, I feel like there's so much Odysseus in Oppenheimer and in Leonardo DiCaprio's character in Inception It feels a lot like Nolan has been making the Odyssey over and over and over again. Like this movie and story have been part of his like muse for a very long time. It's definitely the story of a great man who has done a terrible thing and has to deal with the outcome of that. And that seems like something he often focuses on. So let's talk about Tom Holland. He's playing Telemachus, the son of Odysseus. I've heard really all over the spectrum readings on how he did here, and I think he did a good job. I think Telemachus is written as a character who is a young man who is coming of age, who thinks who he is, and is constantly being put in positions where he's shown that he is not ready. And I think Tom Holland did a really good job of portraying that character and not outskirting it or not trying to big time it because of who he is. I think he seemed very grounded in the role. He came across as a loving son to Penelope, an adoring son to Odysseus, and a frustrated man child. And I think that is exactly where he was. So let's talk about his mom, Anne Hathaway as Penelope. I think that this is a role that probably Anne Hathaway has been waiting to play her whole career and has played in some animated form, as we saw in some videos around The Simpsons recently. Online, there's some really funny, was this Homer or Homer video that really made me laugh. Anne Hathaway's great in this movie. I think that she has the ability to take a character who is effectively underwritten in a lot of cases in the story as just the woman who is waiting for her husband to come home. And between the way that Nolan focuses that character and gives Anne Hathaway the space to be more than just a sobbing wife waiting for her husband, she really is like a feral animal or lioness who is ready to take on all comers. It's really a fantastic role, and I think Anne Hathaway has a hell of a year this year. She's in so many films that I would not be surprised if she gets nominated for this. I would say Matt Damon is probably also on the list for possible Best Actor. So let's keep going. Just going across the top cast list. I'm going to jump over to the regular cast list. So what's cool is the movie opens with Travis Scott as the bard singing or telling the tale in song of what is going on with Odysseus and the story of the fall of Troy. Robert Pattinson plays Antinous, and I think that this is probably the single best performance in this movie. There's a lot of really great, and I think Robert Pattinson is sort of born to play a Weasley villain who is outstaying his welcome, who is leveraging the rules to his benefit, and is trying to undercut everything else that's going on around. God, it's so well done. I mentioned Elliot Page earlier as Sinon. The scenes that they have with their fall, and then when going to Hades and being the voice of a lot of Odysseus's regret and calling him out to be the trickster and tell the tale of Sinon, and embellish, maybe even make it bigger, is really funny as a line that I don't think is brought from the poem often into the movie. Trying to think of any other big. I mentioned John Leguizamo. I am really impressed with him. I think that he plays Eumaeus, M-U-A. Oh, I'm terrible at this. Greek was never my language. Let's just say the character that is the right hand of Odysseus, and he is the one who sits around and waits and tries to protect everyone without a lot of physical capability to do that. So his character is going blind, and he is there with the dog of Odysseus the whole time. God, he is so good in this movie. He is playing it as sort of like a outside the box character. He's a little different than everyone else. He's off to the side of the court. He's often framed just outside of what's going on in the main story. And I think he is so comfortable in that role. He is a big part of what I think works in this movie in the humanity space. Like, he is a much more humane storyteller, and we have a huge amount of affection for Leguizamo as him as himself. He's done so many individual performances of his works, and so many. I've seen him on stages as John telling a story, and I just think he did such a good job in this movie. I hope that he gets nominated. There's some other fun, like Mia Goth as uh, Melantho, who's sort of one of the people who takes care of Penelope and is basically corrupted by the suitors, specifically our friend Robert Pattinson, Antinous. Himesh Patel is playing Eurylochus, who is the right hand of Odysseus out at sea, which is where we see him most. But the whole time that he is off in the sacking of Troy and everything else, uh, Calypso is played by Charlize Theron and is not given a ton to do, but is just this beautiful visage that we are not given the whole time period that he is there, but in the poem, it's years. I think it's 7 years or something like that he spends with her. I mentioned Berenthal earlier. He plays Menelaus. He brings this absolute aggro, over the top energy to this movie and is this sort of embodiment of physicality and rage. Whether it's in the scene of the sacking of Troy inside of the Trojan horse, or whether it is explaining to Telemachus the story of his father and the fall of Troy, but just watching him interact with Helen and the people who are sitting to his right when Telemachus arrives, and how he just owns the space that he's in with this amazing gruff physicality and personality. I was really I like him anyway. I'm sort of in the bag for him, but I think he did a really great job in this movie. Trying to think if there's anyone else that we need to really call out. Penny Safdie was a really interesting and clever casting for Agamemnon. We barely see who it is. There's a little of his curls, a little bit of his face, but not a lot on camera. But he does cut an amazing silhouette. He's almost like the Darth Vader of this movie. When the gates open at Troy and you see that image of Agamemnon waiting with all of his men, it is breathtaking. I gasped in the theater when I saw it, and I was so impressed with the impact. Let's see, anything else that we need to make sure I touch on? The sack of Troy is amazing. It's shot and told as like Nolan likes to, sort of unfurling the story multiple times. It starts at the beginning where it looks like it's this amazing experience of like revenge or of vengeance and of taking over. It's this positive story about how they have taken down Troy. And then in a second telling later in the movie, we from a different perspective, we get to see that it's more complicated than that, right? Like, it's not just this amazing experience. It's tough and difficult and it's hard. And then the final retelling is when, spoilers for this movie, when Odysseus makes it home and he's in the guise of a beggar and he is telling Penelope through through her screen that the story of Troy, and you can see the regret that the way that they won was that they lied. They broke Zeus's law. They broke the fact that they gave a gift and they snuck inside. And it is sort of leads to the final, acknowledgement that this is the end and leads to the Dark Ages. That this is all one man's cleverness to win a war and to go home has broken society. There's these allusions in the entire movie to the idea that the men from the sea, and that there are these people who come and they sack and they rape and they pillage. And you realize throughout the movie, and there's finally an acknowledgement of it, that it is these soldiers. It's a really unbelievable and astounding framing for this movie. I really liked it. I don't think it's a perfect movie. I think that there are some amazing sequences. I think the sequence with Circe, Samantha, Morton, and the soldiers and the transformation she puts them through is really unreal. It is physical. It is not done with effects after the fact. I cannot wait to see some behind the scenes, hopefully at some point. But I loved this movie. I love this experience. I was so glad to share it with my wife, and I'm really glad to talk about it with you all. Thank you so much. I know it's been a minute since I've done a longer episode, but it is really important to me to try to cover the movies that matter to me. So you will see me talk more about others. The things I haven't done that I'm really regretful for yet is The Invite. That was my favorite film of the year before this, and I think it deserves all of its honors and flowers. I will try to put together a oneer of that soon. Thank you so much. Please rate, review, comment. We're all over the place on YouTube for video podcasts, right? We are on TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels and X and Blue Sky for all of my instant reactions for sure. So please interact. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for making it all the way here, and thank you for all the time you've spent with me. This really does make me happy. I look forward to talking to you again soon.